Cloud computing is a hot topic in IT these days and in business as well. But there's a lot of disinformation, a lot of marketing, a lot of confusion. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the myths, concerns, and issues that are around cloud computing and some possible ways to address them. Let's begin by talking about 5 big myths of cloud computing. Number 5, that the public cloud is the one and only true cloud. Number 4, that cloud computing is all or nothing. Number 3, that cloud computing is cheaper, or is it more expensive than on-premises solutions? Number 2, that cloud is just a fancy word for virtualization. And number 1, once you move to the cloud, you can't back out. Public cloud refers to the idea of internet-based applications or cloud services being offered, usually by very large companies, to many public users or to multiple enterprises at the same time. Some examples of public cloud include Microsoft's Office 365 or Outlook.com, the new Hotmail, Salesforce, Google's Gmail, Amazon's Amazon Web Services. These are all examples of the public cloud, where either a particular application, such as mail, or an infrastructure is available to whoever wants to buy it. In the reality, though, this is not the only kind of cloud out there. Many organizations are building private cloud infrastructures, where they want the flexibility and benefits that come from things like self-serve and on-demand architectures, but they want to keep them private to their own company. The hybrid cloud is also common, where some of the offerings of a particular company's IT department are in fact in the public cloud, and others are in a more private environment, with varying degrees of communication and interaction between them. Now, the statistics vary a little between when they're measured and who measured them and exactly what they're studying, but in general, it looks like the private cloud is actually bigger than the public cloud. About 40% of industries report moving some of their services or all of their services to a private cloud infrastructure, where 35% are using the public cloud. The remaining 25% or so is some kind of hybrid approach, where some services are in the public cloud and some services are in a private cloud. Myth number 4, cloud computing is all or nothing. Some people think that if they migrate one service or application to the cloud, they must move everything to the cloud, or they're somehow inefficient or ineffective. In reality, you can decide which applications or services are moved to the cloud according to your needs and on your schedule. In many cases, an on-premises application will integrate with a hosted application. And in fact, cloud computing may increase your ability to move to another cloud-based application or back to an on-premises solution. And that's because once you start looking at any changes you have to make or how to architect your solutions to be portable and flexible enough to run easily in the cloud, they're also then going to be able to be moved much more easily than may be the case with an older legacy application. Myth number 3, my personal favorite. Cloud computing is always cheaper or more expensive or something. Some sources are adamant that it's always going to be cheaper and it's going to save you money to go to the cloud, where others insist that the cloud is always more expensive and you're foolish to move there at all. In reality, not all cloud cost models are pay-per-use. Most are, but there are some that use other contractual models. Cloud offerings are very diverse. It's hard to do exact price comparisons. That's because the offerings are so different, it's hard to look at 2 numbers from 2 different companies, or even the same company, and decide what exactly you're comparing. Now, the cloud is about flexibility, allowing you to choose what you need. And sometimes that flexibility comes at a cost. And that cost may be worth it to you. Other times, though, flexibility allows you to save because you're only buying exactly what you need with no overbuy and no long-term commitment, and the ability to use operational money instead of capital money. So you can't really say that it's always going to be one way or the other way. You have to look at your situation and decide how you're going to apply it. Now, some vendors will offer you a discount for prepaying things, that kind of thing. Well, that's a contractual arrangement, and like any other contractual arrangement, you want to analyze it before you jump in. Cloud computing is only about virtualization. Well, no, that's not true either. Cloud computing usually relies on virtualization, but it's a lot more than just a hypervisor engine. Virtualization is an important component, but it's not the only one. When you look at infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, things like on-demand access, scalability, self-service portals, and joint tenancies help to define those kinds of environments. Software as a service is often about a single service or a single application, not even a virtual machine at all. So if you think about something like a public mail service offered by one of the leading public mail companies, you're not virtualizing a machine there. They probably are, but they're offering you a service that delivers email. The virtualization or amount or lack of virtualization is not the issue when you're selling software as a service or buying software as a service. Myth number 1, once you're in the cloud, you can't get out. There's kind of two subparts to this myth. People believing that vendors will try very hard to lock you into their platform, and that it's very difficult to go back to an on-premise or non-virtual solution. Well, in reality, as we talked about earlier, the hybrid cloud is a very popular model. And often there's a lot of integration between on-premises applications and cloud applications. A good example of this is Exchange 2010 or 2013, running alongside of Exchange Online with clients that include Office 365, Office 2007, and Office 2010. With a pretty robust and pretty complete interaction and transfer of information between all of those different components. Now, from a legal standpoint, partners are not usually allowed to block you from moving away. Now, you may enter into a contract, as I mentioned, and you do want to review that contract, but then you're making a choice for some contractual benefit to agree to stay with that particular partner for a certain amount of time or to buy a certain amount of services. If the portability and the availability to move out of a solution is an important concern to you, investigate, plan, have tools on hand that will allow you to migrate or export your data or your entire virtual machine to where you might want it to be should the need arise. Now, there are still some challenges found in the cloud. Cloud computing is a hot topic right now, but it's only become really popular fairly recently. It is generally very stable, secure, and a proven solution, but challenges still exist. Are there enough skilled engineers? Are they employed by your provider? Not all cloud providers offer the same standards in security or high availability, so you want to do your due diligence and your research around that. One issue that comes up is customer-enabled monitoring of the cloud is sometimes not as robust as desired. Sometimes you want to get a little more statistics, a little more information about what's going on, and your provider may have a harder time providing some of that to you. Depending on what exactly you're purchased and who the provider is, sometimes there's great reporting, sometimes it's a little bit weaker. The high-speed release cycle of updates, particularly in software as a service, is both good and bad. It's great that you can have the latest and greatest and bugs can be fixed quickly, but a lot of companies have a hard time keeping up with the constant change and the instability that constant change can sometimes introduce. So this is a bit of a challenge to adjust to a faster release cycle, particularly when you're a cloud-based solution. And integration, although it's coming, and some examples, such as the Exchange example, are very well done, there are still areas where some applications integrate well between a public cloud and a hybrid solution or between private or on-premises solutions, but others are somewhat lacking in this area. So you do have to look at your individual solutions, your individual software, and determine what works for you. You may hear concerns, and some of them are legitimate. You can hear them from business decision makers, IT pros, users, and they're all relevant, and you need to consider them as you look at moving things along. For example, security and privacy. Well, some cloud providers are better at it than others. Ask. See what's written in the contract. See what legal infrastructure applies in the country or jurisdiction in which your data will be hosted. What happens if your data if you wish to move to another solution? Now, normally the data is yours, and if you want to move, you move and your data moves with you. But you may have to supply a migration tool or an export tool, so you need to be aware of that. A lot of IT pros are concerned about their job security. Will I lose my job if my company moves to the cloud? Well, if you're in that boat, there are a lot of changes going on. And installing racks and servers and that kind of thing is going to be in the purview more and more of those cloud providers. But those cloud providers will be looking for good qualified people too. Within your business, are there ways to leverage your knowledge of the business? If you're a business decision maker responsible for people who might be seeming to be less useful if you move some of your services to the cloud, keep in mind, can you take the knowledge that they have vested in your business, their experience and their knowledge, and apply it to growing your business rather than cabling servers? There's no easy answer to this question. And both as IT workers and as business people, we need to keep that in mind and be ready to adjust and move our careers in the direction that we want them to go. That can be hard as you try to keep up with the different cloud technologies. Well, choosing a cloud partner is no different than any other kind of business partner. Using common sense, researching, keeping up with the different offerings, see what the industry is saying, see what's happening in pricing. Again, depending on whether you're a technologist or a businessman, business decision maker, these are different things that, it is a different world and there is adaptation going on and you do need to keep up. If the internet connection goes down, you're going to have a hard time managing a cloud service. This is absolutely a valid concern. So you need to want to keep track of your purchases of internet connections. Where are your users? What kind of connections and single points of failure do you have? You may have great high availability in that cloud service, but if your head office is connected by a weaker link and it goes down frequently, that's going to be frustrating as well. So again, it's a different way of approaching computing, and you need to be on top of that. You might hear a concern that it's just a fad and it will never last. Well, I'm not sure that's a very valid concern. Big IT players are involved. The big household names, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and many, many, many others are committed to cloud technologies, and more businesses are moving that direction. So you want to keep an eye on that and decide how it will assist your business and how it will help you grow your business. In summary, don't trust everything you hear or read. There's good and bad in the cloud. Cloud computing is here and it's not going away just yet. It's good to choose your provider wisely after having done some research, and to some degree consider them as a potential point of failure and have a plan to include your high availability where needed in terms of your connection, your provider, and the services that they're offering to you.